Hello, I'm going to be giving a quick tutorial on how to import a file, a 3D file from anywhere on the internet and put it into Voices of the Void as a 3D print. So the first thing you're going to want to do is in Blender, just like delete all the basic default stuff that shows up. Just scroll over it and then hit the delete key. And File, Import, and then whatever file type you're going to import. I have an FBX file. So you go into wherever your 3D model is stored and hit your FBX. I'm going to be demonstrating using this Pokemon, the Silvally. If you can't see the texture, make sure to go over to this viewport shading so that then you can see the image texture. If the image texture doesn't show up, then you've got to click on your model so it's highlighted like this, and then you'll go to the materials, which is right here, and you'll have to see what's wrong with these materials. Usually it will be that the base color needs to be an image and it's not using that information from the image. So you're going to have to figure out, it's usually not too difficult because uh, generally the textures will be named similar or the same things as the names of the materials here, because otherwise that would be kind of goofy. From here, what you need to do, you see we have 4 materials here, body A, B, C, and I. For Voices of the Void, we can only have 1 material. So there's many different ways that you can do to combine these materials. This is one way, is on the Voices of the Printer guide website, which I will link below. But I'll also show you the way that I like to do it. Okay, so as it turns out, I took forever to try and tutorialize this, and it came out really bad. And there's easier ways to do this. So I'm going to put this link in the description for this material combiner add-on. So you just hit here, it will automatically download it. It'll go into wherever your downloads live. Then go to your Blender. Ignore this cat stuff, that was other shit. Go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then Install. And go to where you just downloaded whatever that was. And find it in your downloads. And hit install. Then check here to enable it. Close this shit now and go to this side menu. You can open it by dragging on this arrow. And go to Matte Combiner. It should be at the very bottom. You need pillow? Click the button. My Blender's struggling. Please restart Blender. Okay. I'll save this. Just select everything. Automatic will make it minimum size. Sizes of materials without image. You can set this to very small, it doesn't need to be very big. And I recommend putting at least a little bit of gaps between images just to be safe. Hit Save Atlas 2. Name it whatever the fuck you want. Or put it into whatever folder you want. Or just put it into images. So once you hit save, it should put all of your materials into this material atlas, whatever. You can rename this if you want. But most importantly, define the frickin' texture. the texture, which should be into the folder that you just selected. Here it is, atlas00001.png. Now you can just copy this image, go into your printer's file, paste it, and you just, you rename it to be the same as what your model is going to be called. That's it. Follow all my instructions from here, because this is way easier. So now that we've got all of our textures combined, we need to do the next most annoying thing, which is actually a very great thing in the long run of things. We have to make the collision mesh, which is going to be how this prop, as it is printed out, interacts with the world. I usually like to just make a cube. Or at least start with a cube. Maybe I'll change it eventually later. But the point here is that your mesh needs a collision. Now, by default, the collision would be, well, you could easily make a collision by just duplicating your main mesh, Shift-D, right-click to move it back to its original position, and then renaming this duplicated mesh to be UCX underscore, and then whatever name. Because UCX underscore is the prefix for collisions. But what will happen in game is that this collision, let's hide the original model for a moment, will be a convex hold. So if we go into the edit mode, select everything, and hit convex hull here, this is exactly what the collision is going to do, minus the ugly ass texture. You can not ignore that. This is exactly what the collision would do. You can preview it by just convex hulling. This is what the collision would be like in game, which you can see is kind of not really accurate to the shape of our animal here. It's got like an alcove here that is completely decimated. That's why I like to build my own collision using cubes, generally, because cubes are the most simplest shape. So if you hit this option here, X-ray, then you can select both sides here, both sides there at the same time from one of the cardinal direction views. And this you can be as fancy or as not fancy as you want with creating this collision. I'm just going to be pretty lazy. But I do want to retain the head having a different shape. So I'm going to delete this because we don't need it. UCX is the prefix for collisions, and all objects need at least one collision, or else they will get mad at you in the game and won't work. And for every time you want something to be in a way such that the convex hull would start decimating it, so convex is just not concave, so anything that kind of dips into itself like this would be decimated. You need to create a new object. So, Shift-A, create a new cube. Name it UCX again. Because all of them with the UCX prefix are going to be all different collisions. So they'll work all together to create the shape of your object. I'm just going to get real lazy now. You can get more complicated than just cubes, but I like to visualize them more easily as cubes, because then it's a lot harder to accidentally mess up and make something that is too complicated without realizing. But you can like extend it, make a kind of cube instead of a cube. And then I'll make one more. You can just name them whatever. The names don't matter so long as they have the prefix UCX. Okay, that's good enough for me for now. What you're going to do at this point is determine your object's scale. Blender very usefully has a scale by default. Meters. So this cube is 2 meters large. 2 meters by 2 meters is the maximum size that you can put an object in Voices of the Void on the printer. So we will probably not want our creature to be the maximum size. I like to use just a default cube as a means of scaling, and then scale my object to be approximately the size of the cube that is approximately the size that I want my object to be. So I will actually delete this cube and create a new one, so that then I can change the size here to be however many meters I want. So I'll make it a third of a meter high. So I'll make a 0.3 meter tall cube. I'll move it in here. And then I'm going to select everything else that's not this cube. Oops. And I'm going to scale it down. Oops. Till it's about the same size as this cube here. That's good enough. Then I'll delete this one because it'll be in the way otherwise. The last thing you need to do before exporting is to scale everything in your scene by 100. Hit S to scale, and then just numbers 1, 0, 0 to scale by 100. Because in Voices of the Void, what Blender thinks is 1 meter is going to be 1 centimeter. So now, finally, you get to export as your OBJ file. And you put it into your 3D printers folder. Name it something you'll remember. And then you need to take your image from before, this atlas here, and put it also in the printer folder. And it needs to be the same name, also a PNG. It needs to be the same name as that object OBJ file that you just made. So I made that silvalley.obj. This is going to be silvalley.png. Go into my folder, make sure it's in there good. I have too much shit in here, but yep. Actually, I need to change this to be capitalized. silvalley.png and silvalley.obj. Our next step should be in Voices of the Void itself. Okay, so now we're in Voices of the Void. We have our 3D printer at our disposal. We're going to scroll through, because I have way too many files in here, and find the objects that we want. Silvally. You can change all these settings to whatever you'd like. I'll just make it out of plastic, I don't really care. Hit print to begin the printing. What is wrong with my frame rate? Yeah, in a sandbox you can hit skip to skip this part, but otherwise you'll have to wait. And here is my finished creature. You see? Looks nice, looks fine. If I get a small piece of trash, I could fit it between its head and its tail. Okay, I don't think this piece of trash is small enough. Okay, yep, you can see it there. Resting kind of on its back. This is kind of small. I mean, it's fine for like an action figure. But what if I wanted to make it larger? I can go back into Blender Here's my small creature, and I will make it a bit bigger instead. Let's make it, if I make it twice as big, then it would be 1 meter tall, so let's make it 3 times as big. Scale it by 3 on all scales, and then scale it by 100 again. File, export, OBJ, just save it in the same place with the same name. Go back into the game. Now, if you pick up this model in your hand and put it back down, it will have the updated size. So now it's 1.5 meters instead of half of a meter. Or, no, now it's 1 meter, about 1 meter, instead of about 1/3 of a meter. Sorry, my memory. That's the very basics of it. Another good thing is why I preserved this this model. So let me hide these colliders for now. This model has a skeleton you can see here. It's rigged. So if we go into pose mode, we can go around and first let's make sure we can see the bones. I always forget where this is. If we wanted, we could go and pose this guy however we wanted by going into pose mode and rotating all these little guys around. Okay, that's not the right thing. Obviously, this rig is a little bit goofy. The bones are pointing in silly directions. That's not the bone I want. Video games rips tend to be like this. It's annoying. Okay, let's just go in here. Okay, well this is kind of an ugly example, but for example, if you wanted to, you knew how to pose the bones in your armature from your ripped model, you could do it. And obviously the colliders would not update to match. Oops. Go to object mode, I guess you could drag them around. Come on, come on, come on. Let me move you around. You would have to move your collisions to match, but you could just very, very easily, theoretically, pose your model using the bones in the rig and just go back to scale it back up 100 because I made it smaller again, I think. Then export it again as your OBJ file. Just pick it up and put it back down. Now it's got the goofy ass pose that I gave it. But yeah, that's how that works. I hope this is helpful. Have fun with your 3D printers.